Today on Built to Last, we'll insulate the interior of our home and get a better idea of the living space as we hang drywall. Things are really starting to take shape, so let's get to work.
Support for Built to Last is provided by
Unico Incorporated, manufacturers of the small duct high-velocity HVAC Unico system. Unico is dedicated to the environment and has been serving residential and commercial customers around the corner and around the globe for more than 25 years.
Great Northern Lumber, providing green construction materials from skyscrapers to residential remodel. Proud to serve you for the last 27 years and into the future in the lumber industry.
Bosch, power tools for professionals. Proud sponsor of The Green Home. Florida Tile. Expect more. SPI Incorporated, protective coatings, proven performance, and real-world solutions for 24 years. Additional funding is provided by these firms.
On the last episode of Built to Last, we installed all the systems that will be working to keep us comfortable all year long. Now that our systems are in place, we can seal the interior envelope of our home by installing insulation and hanging drywall. There are many different products and techniques to be used to make sure our home is as efficient as possible.
Even a really well-built house is going to have gaps and cracks and areas that air leakage is going to come, and you're going to lose your conditioned air. So the air that you're paying to heat, the air that you're paying to cool, you're going to lose that to the outside. Properly air sealing the building, there's a lot of different ways to look at that. So one of the main areas are various gaps and cracks throughout the building and sealing those up properly with a product that's going to allow it to expand and contract as that house settles.
You know, even though you might have a great insulation job, if you still have a lot of air infiltration coming into where the insulation is, it kind of defeats the purpose. Because insulation is kind of like a large filter. In fact, a lot of filters are made from insulation. So really that's not going to stop air from getting into the house.
The system that we're using today is actually a two-part foam material. However, it's very safe, Green Guard certified for indoor air quality. So very safe for the installers, very safe for the homeowners, and no off-gassing to worry about. One of the great things about that system is we're able to apply that directly to a crack or a gap or an opening where you're going to seal up for air leakage, but yet the product remains pliable, and you'll see it stays soft, so that if the expansion and contraction of the exterior sheathing expands and contracts at a different rate than the lumber that it's next to, it's able to maintain its integrity as an air holdout. One of the major areas in the building that leaks is the top of the house. The reason the top of the house leaks so much is because there's a crack running along the top plate of the partition walls that separate all the rooms within the house, and that crack meets the drywall. We want to have a product that seals up that area. Building science studies have shown that up to 40% of your air leakage goes to the top of the house. So it's one really critical area to seal. By using a product that can gasket to the top plate, when drywall gets applied to that top plate, it'll squash that gasket down and seal that area off. It's very difficult to seal that area from the top side after the drywall's been in, because you have the trusses and all the other things in the attic space and trying to get access to that going down.
That product that we used cuts down on those air infiltration points and seals the house so it's a tighter, more livable space. And you really only have one opportunity to do that. And that's why we kind of come in to do that as one of the very first steps of insulating a house.
Most of the home is ready for insulation, but we still have two more areas to focus on.
One of the other very critical areas to seal within a home is the band joist. The band joist that connects the basement to the floor, the first floor of the house, is a very leaky area. Want to make sure that we air seal in that area. It's probably the next most critical spot to hit. And also the band joist that separates the first floor from the second floor, another critical area to air seal. And then you're working to other areas within the house. In some of the larger gaps today, you'll notice that we're using a gun foam that is used for a fire blocking any penetrations that are vertical from floor to floor, from the basement to the floor. This is a code requirement in this market to have a fire blocking material, and a wider hole like that, we use a higher expansion can foam product.
When you say fire stop, we have a lot of plate penetrations, meaning that where you have pipes, duct work, low voltage wires and so forth, they come through the plates, which is basically the bottom piece of wood at the bottom or the top of the wall. And when a hole's penetrated from one floor to another, we have to come in and seal that. And what that does is that draft stops or prevents fire in case there was a fire in a lower floor from getting to another floor or another room. It's just one added safety precaution. You know, it's a very low cost item to do in a house, but yet it can save people's lives in the end.
We had done an air sealing of all the open joints and cracks and seals, any place where we might get any air infiltration from the exterior. So once that was all done and set in place, then we were able to come back and start installing our insulation into the wall cavities. So the product we're using is a formaldehyde-free batt insulation, which is very important. We don't want to have anything that's going to create any type of off gases or anything else down the line that can inherit the air quality of the home.
We had all the material delivered to the site, and our installers, will go through and seal up by putting insulation in all the open cavities of the walls and ceilings. We started off with prepping the eave vents with the proper vents, which are the styrofoam chutes that are at the eaves, because you want to have good airflow up into your attic spaces. If you don't, you can have possibilities of mold and mildew growing up in the attic, and nobody wants that. After we installed the proper vents up at the eaves, then we can kind of come in and start putting in the fiberglass batt insulation, which was called out for on this particular project, which you can kind of see behind me as it's in between the wall cavities. And in this case, we put in an R19 fiberglass batt because we had 2x6 wall construction for the majority of the house.
A house this size normally would take a contractor maybe 3 to 4 days to insulate. One of our challenges, we have high ceilings and vaulted ceilings. So there's an issue that we're dealing with scaffolding, things like that. So we'll add a little more lead time, but other than that, the home normally this size will be done in a shorter period of time, especially working with batts.
This house is going to be very tight, but all houses are now becoming mandated by the federal government by the 2012 energy codes, and they keep upping the insulation requirements of the house, which is a good thing to do, truthfully, because it helps us consume less fossil fuels. Also, in addition to that, makes the house comfortable. I mean, we want a comfortable house, and if we have a drafty, leaky house, then it's not as comfortable. The biggest thing about insulation is you really only have one opportunity to do it right. And if it's not done properly the first time, it can cost you for the lifetime of the building. From an insulation standpoint, it might not be sexy, it might not be exciting because nobody sees it. It's out of sight, out of mind. Everybody wants to pick the real expensive doorknobs and the cabinets and the faucets that they see in a house. But those can always be changed out at a later time. Like I said, you only have one opportunity to insulate a house and do it correctly.
So basically, we've got open batt insulation for the garage because we've got our vapor barrier on the perimeter of the house. And our stud depth left us enough room to go with an R19 insulation because earlier we had done rigid insulation on the exterior house. So between the combination of the two, we're going to have a great performing exterior wall rating.
There are a lot of different layers in protecting a house, so to speak, to get that thermal envelope, where we might be putting, rigid on the outside of a building, then we might have Tyvek, then we might have the air sealant, and then we might have the insulation on the inside, and even the drywall to a function is another layer. So that overall layer of the entire building envelope is what really makes a well-insulated house.
Our drywall is delivered on site. We're pretty much done with the installation, so we're getting ready to rock our house.
If you think of brick as the exterior skin of a building, wallboard is actually the interior skin of a building. So wallboard is typically used to be able to cover up the framing that has all the mechanical and the electrical components in it. And it gives you a smooth, flat surface to be able to finish all of your walls in your house.
A lot of the aspects we looked at in selecting the drywall was recycled content and lead points for green products. is manufactured within a 500-mile radius, so we conform to a local product being locally produced and shipped to the area. So those are savings there. They're great benefits to take advantage of.
In this house, we are featuring a 5/8" thickness panel, which is different than a typical house where you would use 1/2 inch. The beauty of the 5/8" is it is lightweight, and we're using it because of the advanced framing members that are here in this house.
Basically, we're 24 on centers here. So 1/2 inch tends to bend a little bit, you know, when you're installing it. Where 5/8, you get that more stability and more durability on the 5/8, especially on the drywall lids and on your exterior walls.
With our type of ceiling here, we've got a vaulted and gable roofs coming together. There's a lot of intricate corners and things like that that the drywalls are going to have to deal with. A lot of taping and beading issues. And also with the scaffolding going up 2 stories to get to the vaulted areas is going to be a lot of work.
So a typical person to do loft ceiling something like this, it would take them almost, you know, impossible for them. Not only that, they would piecemeal every piece of drywall in there, make it a lot difficult for the taper. But, you know, these guys are really trained and know what they're doing, where they eliminate a lot of the cuts and try to go with full sheets, you know, where need be. It just makes it a lot easier for the taper, and it cuts on time also.
This product is also part of a lightweight portfolio, so a lightweight product. It is 30% lighter than the traditional wallboard, which, what does that mean? It means that we've taken 30 pounds per sheet of weight out of it on a typical 4x12 sheet. So we do consider it a green or a sustainable product. This product is manufactured using less raw materials. Also, we use about 16% less water in manufacturing this product. And lastly, we can get over 33% more boards on a truck shipping to a job site or a customer, which means that there's less trucks on the road as well as less diesel fuel being consumed.
Not only is it easier to work with, I mean, it's got longer lasting, and not only that, it helps a lot with any injuries with your guys. You know, injuries are a big factor in the industry. You know, keeps the insurance rates low. And by using an ultra weight over the years, helps a lot, you know, keeping guys healthy.
In the basement of our home, we're using a mold-resistant drywall. This normally is in a house that most of them are undergrade or moisture issues could be a problem. For us, we're using it more of a benefit because the exterior and front side and back side of materials are recycled content, paper. So those are things that we're trying to keep our theme of being a green home incorporated into the home design and products. On the upper floors we're doing, and ceilings, we're doing a lightweight drywall, which is easier for a contractor to hang. You don't have an issue of the weight and sagging over time. Also, we're looking at different types of products that perform differently in different aspects of the house. Garage area where we need to do a fire rating, fire separation between the home. We've got a fire rated sheetrock product. In the bathrooms, we're doing mold resistant areas, products to handle those instances. So those are things that we've kind of always looked at and tried to address to make sure we make the best product selection.
People take for granted sometimes when they come in and they see the finished result, but really never see what it does take, you know, to build a beautiful home like this one.
The drywall's complete, and now it's time to protect portions of the walls with another technology.
Well, you need corner bead to protect the outside corners of drywall. Drywall itself is very strong, but on a corner it is not designed to withstand an impact. So you put a corner bead on to protect it from the occasional scuffs or abrasions or any type of impacts that might otherwise damage the corner. The product we're using today is on all the outside corners. It's a square outside corner bead. It's made of rigid vinyl. It's designed to replace what was traditionally a metal corner bead that was used in the process. Rigid vinyl has advantages of being dent resistant, corrosion resistant, and it'll pretty much last the lifetime of the house.
I'm here with Mark Budzik from TrimTex, who's here to tell us about drywall products. Mark, what does TrimTex do?
TrimTex has been in the business for 40 years, and we make drywall corner beads. The corner beads we make are made out of rigid PVC, and they replace the traditional metal beads that have been used by contractors for a long time. Trimtex also makes crown moldings. We make drywall layering beads. One of the greatest parts of our product is we can take scrap drywall that's on a job site and reuse it by making decorative shapes. So instead of throwing all that drywall away into a dumpster, you just cut a cool shape out of it, you put our beads on the end of it, voila, masterpiece.
So it's sustainable.
It's sustainable, it's reusable. The product is made out of over 75% recycled PVC content. We keep 20 million pounds every year of PVC out of landfills and put it into beautiful product.
Oh, wow, that's impressive. And I see some shapes behind us. Can you tell us how you achieve these things?
Sure. One of the biggest advantages of PVC over metal is PVC flexes. You can create beautiful archways. It allows the homeowner, architect, builder to add aesthetic designs that in the past were simply not possible.
That's amazing. Why don't we go take a look at the recycled materials?
All right, we'll show you how it's made.
Okay, thanks. So this is where it all starts. How does it work?
We get the material from all over the country. Some of it comes in this form. So here you're seeing a bale of material that we've rescued from a landfill.
Wow, that is, can you imagine if that were to just go in the landfill, but instead you're putting it to good use?
Absolutely. So we start here, and then we go and we grind the material up. Okay. Here we have a clear ground plastic, and here we have a white ground plastic. We take all this material, we combine it in a proprietary blend, put in additives so it meets building codes and lasts the life of the structure, and then we're ready to make the final product.
So tell me, how does this turn into a final product?
Well, we take this and we put it into our extruder. An extruder is like a big meat grinder, and it takes this material and it's going to mash it up and melt it, and then that melted material goes through a die, which is the final shape of the product. Once we have the final shape, we punch holes in it, we cut it to length, and then we package it and ready to ship.
All over the world.
All over the world.
So this is where you store the product before it's shipped?
Absolutely. We keep over 100,000 boxes of finished product ready to ship.
Wow, and here's some product right here, yes?
Yes. So here we have the finished product. This is equivalent to 20 million pounds of PVC that we've rescued from landfills. So that 20 million pounds goes into over 300 million feet of bead that go into homes worldwide.
Oh, that is unbelievable. Great work. Thank you so much for sharing with us about sustainable products that we're using in our green home.
All right, thanks for coming out.
The drywall is set, beading in place, and now we need one last process to finish this phase of our home.
Once all the drywall is installed, basically, then we do all the corner beads and all the corners, and then the tapers come in. And they usually pre-fill a lot of the bad areas or a lot of the joints from the drywall. Then they use a bazooka, which is called the tool of the bazooka, which shrinks all the tape. You do all your tape, your inside corners, all your seams, and then you do your first coat, basically, the next day, once it's dry. After your first coat, you do like a light sand, almost, basically, so you can do your finished coat. After your finished coat, you go around, you touch up, you tweak all your corners, and you're ready to sand. Once you sand, after you're done sanding, basically you're ready for prime and paint.
One of the things that start to come to light in a house like this, once the drywall goes in, everything takes shape, everything has a form, everything becomes a more defined space. A lot of areas where we just had some archways form, some drop beams, were pretty much open. Now everything starts to take shape, looks realistic, and gives the house a new dimension, which is pretty exciting.
With another phase of construction complete, it's time to talk again with Sam Rashkin about our home. All right, Sam, great to have you back. What do you think of the outside of the house?
Well, no, it's so interesting to see all the finishes now complete on the outside.
It looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What about what's behind what we're seeing?
You know, that's a great question, Amy, because the average homeowner, home buyer coming to see a house like this wouldn't really even begin to know about all the details we looked at during the construction process.
Right.
Yeah, details that make a big difference. You know, the drainage details and the flashing details. Water, unbeknown to most people, gets behind every kind of cladding: brick, stones, stucco, wood. makes no difference. Water's going to get behind. So the fact those drainage and flashing details are there, really important. And the other thing that people couldn't see would be all those thermal protection details. Now there's 1 inch of rigid insulation wrapping the whole house like a thermal blanket. Pretty big deal.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Why don't we see what's behind this exterior?
That'd be great.
Okay. Well, Sam, looks like a great opportunity to talk about some of our systems.
Sure, you want to start with the heating system?
Let's do it. Tell me, what are we looking at?
Something very different. Most homes have an air duct heating system where the heated air comes out of the ducts. This house has a radiant floor heating system, which means hot water is piped through all these little tubes and it heats the floor. And the reason that is so important is it creates a warm surface. And surface temperatures are much, much more important than air temperature. 40% more comfort through the surface than we do when the air temperature is heated up. Wow. So that's why these systems have a great reputation for comfort. I'll also mention, if you look right next to it, you see the duct coming through for the cooling system, the high velocity duct system, very high efficient cooling equipment fitting that high velocity fan that sends cooling through the house. So that's right next to the heating system.
Great. Now it looks like they have ripped off a piece of drywall for us just to talk about the insulation.
Yes, aren't we special? But thanks to them for doing that, because we can actually show what's really important about insulation is as much as the quantity is the quality of the install. And what you see here is the insulation's installed very full between the framing members, so you have no gaps and no compression, no squeezing, no places where it's missing, and that's what you want to see in a good installation job. Insulation derives its benefit and its performance from the fact that you have those air spaces between the material. In fact, that is what characterizes the insulation performance, and if we squeeze and compress it, then we lose that R value. Now, what's also important about this insulation is we know on the back side, do you remember what was installed?
We've got a barrier around the exterior of the home, insulation, right?
That's right, we have a 1 inch rigid insulation sheathing around the entire house. So that means we have a blanket around the entire house on top of this blanket of insulation here. And why that's so important is 400% more heat flow through the wood framing, top plates, bottom plates, framing members, headers, 400% more heat flow. Now we block it all with that outside sheathing of insulation. Very important detail.
Great. Now, is there any difference with the insulation here as opposed to the attic?
Oh, thanks for asking. That's also very important to know, because attics are a very tough condition. It's much, much hotter in the summer. It might be 130 degrees versus 90 degrees outside, and still equally cold in the winter. So with the attics, we need to do some details and more insulation than we do in the walls. So you'll see in the attic, we'll have like R49, which is much thicker insulation in the attic. Also, where the insulation runs down to the soffit, we need to put a baffle there so the air from the soffit venting goes over the insulation and doesn't diminish the performance of the insulation there.
Well, I think we're good here. You want to head to the basement?
Always love going to the basement.
Let's
That's
go.
Great.
Well, this certainly looks complicated. What are we looking at?
I don't have a clue. What do we? Well, actually, I do.
Okay, good. We're counting
What we
on
have
it.
here, I guess, is two systems. We have a cooling system over there, the high velocity duct with the very efficient cooling system driving cooling to all the rooms. And this is our condensing boiler, which is also very efficient, and it supplies the heated water for the radiant heat floor system we talked about. So now, in fact, there's lots of pumps, and they're in different blocks, and they're fed by different thermostats. So there's 6, in fact, different groups of pumps that operate each one off a different thermostat. So if you're in a bedroom section or kitchen or downstairs, even here in the basement, you can pick which thermostat setting you want for that location, and you get comfort to your specification.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great. One thing to note, of course, is that these systems are so efficient that they actually have such low temperature heat that they finish off with. It can go right up the plastic pipe rather than a metal flue.
Great. Looks like we've got it covered here. It looks industrial, doesn't it?
Sure does. So we have a very efficient windows and walls and attic, and now we have a very efficient system all working together.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. I look forward to your next visit.
It was great, Amy.
you really can see what a difference drywall makes in defining the interior spaces of our home. Our team has done a great job, and I'm just as excited as you are to see how the inside of our home will progress. We have a lot more work to do, so join us next time on Built to Last, the Green Home.
Visit the Built to Last website to learn about these topics and more. Support for Built to Last is provided by
Unico Incorporated, manufacturers of the small duct high velocity HVAC Unico system. Unico is dedicated to the environment and has been serving residential and commercial customers around the corner and around the globe for more than 25 years.
Great Northern Lumber, providing green construction materials from skyscrapers to residential remodel. Proud to serve you for the last 27 years and into the future in the lumber industry.
Bosch, power tools for professionals. Proud sponsor of The Green Home. Florida Tile. Expect more. SPI Incorporated, protective coatings, proven performance, and real-world solutions for 24 years. Additional funding is provided by these firms.